Yes, well, I'm going to talk about love being a special ingredient. I'm going to talk mostly about Judge Troward and kind of summarize some of the topics we've been talking about the last 3 weeks in classes. And Robert, his statement was about that creative artist and putting feeling into it. So feeling, I equate love and feeling as the same. So I just want to say good morning, happy Halloween, happy El Dia de los Muertos, and whatever you like to celebrate this time of the year, going crazy. So I just want to say that this creative process, this is the book we've been reading, Creative Process in the Individual, and we always say this, there's a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. Well, this tells you how to use it. Good book. So, I also want to thank Reverend Kate and Reverend Dr. Maddie for their talk about some of these topics. And I'm going to talk about unity, involution and evolution, personal factor, which Kate talked about last week, reciprocity, and death. Actually, Troward says, you don't need to die. There's no reason for it. And I'll explain that. So Ernest Holmes, who was the founder of Science of Mind, he said the majority of his material came from Judge Troward. They were very similar, except Troward believed in reincarnation and Holmes did not. And the chapter we're talking about today is called denouement. It's a French word, denouement, which is the conclusion of the creative process. Denouement also means kind of like bringing forth the secret, it's usually in a mystery whodunit, you find out at the end. But first, what do you call a wolf who reads philosophy? An aware wolf. An aware wolf.
How did you make that up?
One more. Robert said he had just been to a diabetes awareness website and had asked him if he would accept cookies. Is that a trick question?
I like that.
They're cookies. So, back to Troward. The denouement of the consciousness and the creative process is that universal spirit, by self-contemplation, evolves substance. Universal substance is what he calls it, but it's form, it's material, it's manifestation. That means we make choices which consciously evolve us on an ascending scale to an immortal body. No need for death, and a greater enjoyment of life. And he starts out with this progression that he says there's the mineral kingdom, then there's the plant, the animal, and the human kingdom. But the last kingdom, he calls the fifth kingdom, this is the divine intelligence living in form, human form. And he says the more complex intelligence, the more complex the form. So the greater our consciousness, the greater our form will be. So he was kind of an odd duck. He was a mystic, and yet he was able to put into a very proper English and logic these books, these writings. And he was able to give us new thought, a new way of thinking. Not a religion, a new way of thinking. Eastern traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism believe that the purpose is to transcend this life, transcend time and space. Not new thought, religious science. We don't transcend, we transform. We're transforming from a lower personality, ego-oriented personality, to the divine individual. So most of us ask ourselves, well, who are we? We're spiritual beings. Individualized centers for the distribution of universal creative spirit. He called us divine distributors. So think of yourself as distributing love. What do you want out of life? I think to get more out of life in a continuing progressive order, we want to evolve. And how? We make conscious choices. You said that in your song. Make a choice by relying on spirit and using the personal factor. It's up to us to participate in our own destiny. And what's the result of coming of this divine individual? Taking our evolution into our own control by the choices we make. And that's how thoughts become things. So a little review. Unity, God is all there is, and manifests itself through all creation, but it's not used up in its creation. And that word that is used is immanent. It's immanent in its creation, and it's transcendent. Unlike some of the religions. God is, or spirit is not consumed by its creation. It's greater than its creation. And everything is spirit, everything is vibrating. We say E equals mc squared. Energy is mass and can be converted back to energy. They're both the same thing. That's why we say we participate in this transcendent becoming immanent. This is the flow from universal to individual. So did any of you see the harvest moon last night? Yeah. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And we are made out of star stuff. I don't know if you read science, but they have these things called supernovae, I guess, plural, whatever. But a supernova is a star that basically explodes or implodes. It's on the last part of its life cycle, and the star basically explodes. And it sends out shock waves, and everything that it goes through compresses it. And it creates such elements as oxygen, carbon, which is what you are, zinc, silver, tin, gold, mercury, silicon, rubidium, uranium. And the stellar debris that is created millions of years later, it may be incorporated into new stars. And the fact that the Earth contains these elements that are produced only in supernovae is evidence that our solar system, our planet, and the bodies contain material that was produced long ago. Your star stuff, it's all one. We are all one. So speaking of unity, though, I saw this quote and I had to share it. Most of you know who Charles de Gaulle was. He was a president of France. He was also a military officer who led Free French forces against the Nazis in World War II. And he said about unity, only peril can bring the French together. One can't impose unity out of the blue on a country that has 265 different kinds of cheese.
That was good.
But we know we're one. We're one. We're one with the French. We're one with the cheese. The next phrase Trord uses a lot is involution and evolution. And you've seen the big teaching symbol with kind of looks like a V. And Kate talked about it's planting the seed. It's like spirit is involuting into physical form. Evolution is the passing of form back into spirit. So involution, evolution. And we pass back into spirit as we evolve. During the evolutionary process, we discover the power of choice. The journey of the soul is this progressive discovery of greater and greater levels of awareness. And we begin to reflect upon our own existence and how we were created. Now, the personal factor, which Kate talked about, is the decision of the self-conscious individual, you, to participate consciously in your own evolutionary process. Okay? This culminates when we realize our oneness with Spirit at all times, when we realize we are it, we are that. When we become aware that we have the power to mold the conditions of our consciousness. So earlier, we lit the candles, Jim lit them. Those are the attributes of Spirit that Troward said. He said, we have peace, power, beauty. Well, we don't have beauty, power up here, but life, light, love. Peace, power, beauty, joy. That's from him. He said the power plus the candles are the original attributes, which he called all originating spirit. And he called us all original artists, because we create our life. We can create some really interesting lives here. So he knew there was a level of consciousness above human consciousness. He called the divine kingdom. He said, if you're going to move from the fourth to the fifth, you have to come into harmony with Spirit. You have to practice all of these attributes that we're talking about. He said, practice, practice, practice until the 7 attributes become unconscious automatic behavior, become totally free to fully express your artistic expression and become a spiritual master. And part of this is what you have to do is it's called reciprocity. You have to give back to Spirit. And part of that he talks about is service. You have to give as well as receive, because you're always receiving from Spirit. When you do prayer for yourself and others, you're giving back. Now, as far as death and immortality, he said we're limited by race consciousness. Race consciousness is based on fear. It's kind of law of the averages. You know, we have a society that lives in fear, has some ideas of fear. And he says physical death, that this race consciousness says that physical death is necessary, or that it's the will of God, or, you know, you have to keep down the population. He says that conception keeps us subject to that law, while contemplating ourselves as rejoicing in life, the life of Spirit, that will produce opposite results. The principle of creative progression from mineral, kingdom, plant, animals, people, divine, human, he says it implies resurrection of the body. And he said our normal standard personality is not subject to death, but it's the eternal essence and being of life itself. He's very optimistic about restoring your body to perfect health. He's great that way. I wanted to share with you this book, Life Visioning, by, I think he's a Dr. Reverend Michael Beckwith. Because he has steps to show you how to move into some of these levels that are what I consider within the divine human. He has 4 levels, excuse me, that we talked about in class. To me, through me, by me, as me. Those steps, like, for example, life happens to me, you know, I have no control, I'm a victim, I have no power. That's the bottom. The second is, I can use the law. Hey, it happens by me. I speak my word. I create. I can create a parking spot. I can create a new job. I can create a better relationship. That's Spirit by me, by me. Then he says through me. The through me level is I know all I need to know is within me. I turn it over to God. And the highest level within the human level is as me. I feel merged with spirit. I sense oneness with all life. That beautiful harvest moon. I show up as the presence. I follow my inner guidance. I am love. I am light, life, peace, power, beauty, and joy. That's who I am. So this book has some practices you can do to help you recognize, and we've talked about it in class too. We have some material to practice in class. So Troward first developed the idea of positive prayer. He emphasized speaking to the subjective within. He said this was an automatic operation of creation by speaking your word, basically. He explained positive prayer. He said, first make a clear conception. And that's what we do when we do prayer treatment. Clearly ask for what you want. Clear as a state, what is it I really desire? What is Spirit speaking to me? Spirit is pulling me up, and I want to reciprocate and be clear what it is. And then he says, mentally address the subjective mind as though it were an independent entity, kind of like a sweet person. You're talking to the subjective. You will do this for me, and I am grateful. And, it's okay to talk to God. I do it. So, and then he says, return to your own objective personality and leave the subjective mind to perform the task. Which we say, what is it? I'm not on the Ways and Means Committee. I'm on the,
Planning committee.
I'm on the planning committee, but not the Ways and Means. Subjective. Figure out how to do the task. So I wanted to just give you an example. 20 years ago, this month, I was out looking for a new car. My daughter was with me. I lived in Honolulu. And we went to a dealer, and he said, oh, this car over here is the same color as your daughter's hair, which is this beautiful golden wheat color. And I like the car already. So I checked out the new, and it was a new car, but it was a 2003. And at the end of the year, they have to get these things off the lot. 0% financing. Very good. Free money. So soft leather seats. Loved it. But I had done a treatment before I went out looking for a car. I wanted a reliable car and a safe car. And this had special side airbags, front airbags, the whole thing. So I bought the car, and I had it shipped here when I moved. And it's the same car we drove down to Guadalajara, and I used when I was teaching in Mexico. I drove all over with all the potholes. And drove the car back here, and that car is reliable. People ask me, they say, you have a 20-year-old car, what are you doing? I go, hey, I treat. It's a reliable car at every time, and it's still beautiful. I love it. Love is the secret sauce, secret ingredient. So, we are the true sanctuary of spirit. Universal mind includes warm, loving, guiding presence. And we have to surrender to that universal presence. We should allow it to particularize itself through us, because we are all divine. We're all very special. Do you ever read the story when you were little, The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry? He said, the essential is invisible to the eye. One can only see clearly with the heart. So you have to experience the divine through your heart, through love, through feelings. And, don't get stuck on, treatment says I have this step, this step, this step, this step, this step. Don't get stuck on that. Go to your heart. What does your heart want? How does your heart want to communicate with the divine, the presence within you? So I'm just saying, treatment works, But you have to put the love into it. You have to put that into it. Troward said, he said, you must feel it. Think life, prosperity, harmony, illumination, happiness, joy, spiritual attitudes. He says, manifestation is not simply the result of thought, but it is the result of an inner state based on realization, which is the third step of treatment. But that's where you put the feeling in, the third step of treatment. He says, we must remember the soul of life is love. Love shows itself by service. Love is kept alive by maintaining our hold on the exterior life, as well as the inward principles of spirit. He said, stop creating negative forms. Death, stop creating death. Stop creating sickness, sorrow, trouble, limitations. Practice control over your thoughts. Our thought as feeling is the magnet which draws to us those conditions, negative or positive. He said, meditate, align yourself with the divine. And I say, contemplate, what does it feel like to be the divine, to really be the divine 24/7? I mean, I used to say to myself in this situation, well, what would Buddha have done here? What would Jesus have done? What would Yogananda have done? You know, what does that feel like? It feels like love. It feels like peace. It feels like power. So new thought is a new and committed way of living where we're constantly immersed in the living presence of universal spirit. And I just wanted to stop and say something about all the strife that's been going on in the world, people that have been impacted in the Middle East. And I wanted to give you a quote. I know this is a loving quote from a very famous painter. His name is Picasso. And Picasso was a Cubist and just very interesting, surrealist. He was a Spanish painter. And you know what's interesting when I was reading about him is his paintings, more of his paintings have been stolen than any other artist. That shows you how popular the man has been. But he said, he gave a quote, he had 4 children, and it was clear that he loved children. He said, do you know what you are? And this includes each person out here. Do you know what you are? You are a marvel. You are unique. In all the years that have passed, there has never been another like you. Your legs, your arms, your clever fingers, the way you move, you have the capacity for anything. Yes, you are a marvel. When you grow up, can you then harm another who is like you, a marvel? You must work, we must all work to make the world worthy of its children. So, in conclusion, when we continuously create from principle, not precedent, and some of you have heard that, we say principle is not bound by precedent. That means what you create today is not bound by what you created yesterday unless you decided to take what you did yesterday and drag it into the present and make it your future. Let go of those old stories. Just live in the present. Principle is not bound by precedent, so let the precedent go. So go within. Practice, practice, practice. Listen for the intuition. Listen for the inspiration. And love. Love spirit in you as you, because you are a marvel. You're made of star stuff. You're divine. So it is.
So it is.